Warning, do not do what Alireza has done in this game at home. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5th round of the Sinquefield Cup, where last night Alireza took on Anishgiri world number 14, and on one of the biggest opening theoreticians in the world. Going to this round, Alireza was leading the tournament with 2.5 points, sharing it with Wesley. So Anish didn't have a great tournament. He has lost the game to Yon and has drawn 3 games. So their overall face-to-face, Anish and Alireza is favoring Alireza with 1 win and 6 draws in classical games. 2 hours for both players plus 30 seconds. Let's jump right into the action. Let me remove this first. So Alireza started with pawn to e4 here. Anish very solid pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and we have Italian. Anish started with knight f6, attacking the pawn. Alireza went for d3, not interested for fried liver. Bishop c5 on the board. Very natural. We have classic Giocopiano, and Alireza goes castle. Very logical move. The most flexible move. You could start with knight d2 or c3 as well. And here Anish played pawn to d6, activating his bishop. And in this position, Alireza played this move c3, controlling d4 and b4, going for probably a huge attack on the queen side. Anish started with a5. It's not the only move. You could play a6 as well, or even h6. A lot of nuances in Giocopiano. And in this position, Alireza played h3, very common move to give some space to the king and stop some control g4 idea, g4 square. And Anish went short castle here, and in this position Alireza chose to play bishop b3, which is an interesting move because you're losing a lot of time with this bishop, moving it twice and not giving turn to other pieces. And that's why I told you don't do this at home, because you have to play natural moves like bishop g5, knight d2, rook e1 if you're a beginner. But bishop b3, for example, he had a lot of games in this line. One of them is, for example, rook e1. Most of the time people play h6, knight d2, bishop e6. This is his game against Mamedyarov, where he won in the European Club Championship and became youngest 2800 ever. And the game was, for example, like this, pretty much more natural than what he has done in this game. But he decided to go bishop b3. Probably he was inviting Anish to play bishop e6, because bishop e6 is very tempting here, because now we are threatening kind of positional threat to take, because if you take with the pawn, you double your pawns. If you take with the queen, a4, knight comes here, again a4. So bishop e6 was very tempting, but he wanted to face this. Probably for this idea, he wanted to play against this pawn structure, or simply because of bishop c2 and forcing black to find such only moves, actually, to equalize the game like this. e4 is only move. So Anish decided to just play h6 instead of going to bishop e6. Very natural move, stopping bishop g5 ideas. Alireza played rook to e1, rook to e8 by Anish, knight d2, bishop e6. And in this position, very natural move, Alireza played bishop to a4. Yeah, this bishop normally goes to b5 or a4, puts pressure on this knight, force it to move, and then you get d4, pins it. So yeah, it's very common for this bishop to dodge this bishop from and goes to this diagonal. And in this position, Anish plays a very thematic move, queen to b8. Idea is b5 actually. If you play d4, for example, here I can play b5, takes, and black is completely fine in this position, even though you're double pawn. But you have the b file, and you have a lot of activity. These pieces are sleeping. So b5 is one idea, and another idea is queen a7. To beginner eyes, it looks a bit weird, but the queen didn't have any future on the king side. So in this position, Alireza plays a move that after this, Nimzovich should say, okay, my system book should stop publishing, because he already wasted 3 tempos with his bishop, and now he just takes the knight, which moved once. So this is a huge modernized chess that Alireza found in his preparation. I mean, normally people start with knight f1, they allow b5, you come back to c2 and play for d4 or bishop e3. But here he found a very nice move and tried, because Anish is he's a huge theoretician, and until now he was blitzing out all the moves. And after this and knight f1, Anish here thought for about 20-30 minutes, a lot. He thought a lot, and he could not just understand what is happening and what is White's idea. He wants d4, he wants knight g3, bishop e3. I mean, what should I do? And after a lot of thought, he played bishop b6, which was a bad. I mean, I could give it a bad sign as well, because this bishop needed to be on this diagonal, and a lot of the lines needed to guard the king, and d5 should have been on his agenda, but he focused on this diagonal, which was wrong. And after this, the game really becomes hard for him. And now after knight g3, he wants to play d4, queen a7, very logical move, attacking this pawn. And Alireza played pawn to d4 here easily. So the way he had to play instead of bishop b6 was to go a4, just put pressure on the queen side, try to fix the pawn structure, and do not react against d4. Because here, for example, if you play d4, I can just take, and I go bishop b4, and then play d5 at some point. But okay, it's not easy because you have bad pawn structure, and you think, and you're also surrendering the center. You normally do not like to take on d4 in such positions, because you want to keep your tension, keep the center, take here, and you think you're going to lose your 2 bishop advantage. But this is actually very fine for black. He could put pressure like this, like even queen b6, rook b8, here, put pressure on the queen side. But you have to really know this. So yeah, he had to play like that. And after, yeah, I mean, knight f1, a4, like knight g3, and now queen b6. Again, you're not worried about d4, rook e2, and then this queen cannot really join on the king side. d4 again, takes here, bishop d2, same idea. If you go rook e2, there is sometimes this, or there are some ideas like sacking the pawn as well, because you have 2 bishop advantage and a lot of activity. This bishop is a monster. Okay, anyways, I told you how he had to play. And after bishop b6, Alireza just has a very easy game. a4 by Anish, pawn to d4. Yeah, he didn't play queen a7, sorry. He played a4 first, and after d4, he played queen to a7. Guarding this pawn tactically, attacking the pawn on f2, Alireza played bishop to e3. And in this position, again, you don't want to surrender the center. Computers don't care. They say you take, it's fine, but you don't want to give up the center when you have double pawn as well. I could put pressure on the c file. Anish plays queen a5, very interesting move. I mean, again, if you play bishop d7 to guard the pawn, you don't want to play passive chess as well. Queen a5, now queen c1, going for bishop h6 ideas, bishop king to h7, guarding everything, very natural move. And here Alireza plays a very nice practical move, just putting the knight on f5 and trying this pawn on if this pawn was on h7, everything could have changed. And now black has a pawn on h6, and also this bishop is not on f8, so everything, the attack is really annoying for black here. And this position, Anish plays knight to g8, very sad move, but you have to really guard your king very safe. Everything is fine, it's still objectively for black, but after knight f5, it's really hard. Here Anish thinks a lot again. And after knight f5, I mean, computer was showing a beautiful move like queen b5 here, just waiting move. But okay, you're worried about such ideas, you never know what is going to happen. It's really hard to play such moves. And yeah, I mean, here I could take on e5, for example, one of the best moves here, e5. And but it's not easy. It's not easy for black to understand what should you do. But practically, maybe the best was this. Actually, he could play like this, and and played, I don't know, maybe knight g6. I think he could play like this. But here he panicked actually, and he played c5, and he was following principles. And Alireza said that's for the books, that they say when you're getting side attacked, attack in the center. No, I'm kidding. That's the right way, but not here, because your bishop is really bad here. I don't know what he missed, because in this position it's a puzzle. Pause the video and find the best way that Alireza could win the game. He saw it, but he couldn't complete his calculation. But even let alone the tactics, I mean, just taking on e5, I mean, if you take back, even if I don't have anything here, this looks very weird. Maybe he thought he has always c4 and he's going to exchange, yeah, whenever he's going to exchange the bishops, because if you allow c4, black is completely fine. So in this position, after c5, Alireza took on e5. But the best move was to take on g7. He saw this. He could fire up the board like this. And now you don't take on h6. You play d5 first. You can close the center and then continue the attack. If you give up the bishop, okay, I'm better. If you come back, another sacrifice. Queen g5, king f8, knight h5. Alireza saw all of this, as he said in the interview. And after knight g8, rook e3, c4, rook f3, this position, he thought after queen b5, he thought he saw this line which king escapes, but actually you can just chill here. It's even rook b1 is winning here. Even rook b1 is winning, but actually in this position it's mating too. Rook f7, queen g7. It's mate. So he said he missed it from far. And yeah, that's pity. It could just be a very beautiful game like this. But instead he took on e5 and he was hoping for take, and now he said it was an easy win, because now the king cannot really escape after rook a d1. He wanted this, but Anish understood this and he took on f5. He blundered this knight g7 idea, and or maybe he didn't blunder. He wanted maybe to take on e5, but actually you cannot take with the rook here because c4 and e4 is not hanging, because I have queen c2 and a lot of attacks, discoveries coming, so your bishop is bad. So I really don't know what he blundered. He took back on e5, and after c4, yeah, there are always bishop h6 ideas. This knight cannot really be activated because always you can sack. Even, I mean, this queen needs to be on dark square. It doesn't even need to be on c1. Even on c3 at some point you can take and go g3, e3 and attack when this knight moves. So after this move, Anish played rook a d8, rook to d1. I did 48 minutes against 40 minutes. Queen to a8. Again, you cannot move your knight. You just bring your queen to an active position and attack the pawn on a4, e4. Alireza plays rook to d5. Very sensible move, because you're just activating your pieces. And you cannot play knight f6, forcing c6, and now d6 gets weak. A lot of the time queen can come to d6 as well. Queen to c2, idea rook d1. If I take the rook d file from black, it's over actually. So queen to a6, stopping rook d1, rook c1, guarding the pawn on c4, and preparing queen c3, and ideas limiting black to move his pieces. And in this position, Anish plays rook d7 to guard e7, because in a lot of lines where you play bishop c7, bishop c5, and this bishop e7 was forking the knight and rook. So a3, fixing the weakness. Anish played knight to f6, and now Alireza said this knight quickly could come to this d4 square. So it's not an easy position. Even though black has a lot of weaknesses, you cannot really put pressure on them easily. So he played queen e2, because now queen knight e8, I have queen g4, and I stopped knight h5 ideas, stuff like that. Anish played queen to c8, yeah, bringing the queen towards the king to stop all of such ideas. Bishop h6, I have taken queen f8, queen c2 again, guarding the pawn, queen a6, and Alireza played here queen c3. As I said, it's not easy, and queen c3, objectively, it's not a bad move, but practically it's bad, because it's already, because he missed this move by black, and you don't have time to come back anymore. Here, Anish found a very nice move, queen to a5, very nice move, and you cannot come back because it's going to be threefold. We had this position on move, we had this position on move 28. And we had this position like this again here on move 30, and if you come back again on c2, black can claim the draw. You should not play queen a6 and say it's draw. You should stop the clock and claim that it's draw by repetition. So queen a5 was a very nice move, stopping such ideas as well, because queens are eyeing each other. And actually Alireza missed that. Probably Alireza missed the fact that if you take on c5, e4 is hanging, or actually not. He thought he can take on e5 actually, but there is bishop c7, your queen is trapped, you're forced to exchange queens, and suddenly all of your pieces gets activated. So queen a5 was a very nice move, but luckily Alireza had this move b4, and still game goes on and white keeps his advantage. Okay, black lost one of his weaknesses, but still, if he created a pass pawn, still not easy. In this position, Anish plays bishop to c7 here, guarding the pawn on e5, controlling d6 square, because still you cannot touch your king side and attack my knight. It's not easy. And after bishop c7, Alireza played g3, very smart move, because g4 normally is more tempting, but now you can take and come back. Knight h6, there is e4, there is no knight g4, while when the pawn is on g3 you have knight g4 and the position is winning. So g3, just to improve your king position. Queen to a6, control. There was queen b7 also lurking. Anish guards it and also stop rook d1 ideas. King to g2, rook to d8 is bad because of a tactical move that Alireza missed. Alireza played rook to a1 here, guarding the pawn and trying to push the pawn, attacking this pawn. Be careful, you cannot take this pawn because knight d4 attacks the bishop with tempo. So Alireza missed this bishop h6, which was a very hard move to find. Takes, because after queen e3, knight g8, you have to play queen to f3, and going for queen g4 mate ideas, and you had to find this sequence, knight h4. It's not easy, like it was not easy. And maybe he thought, okay, he just doesn't need this. So queen to c8, the position wins slowly, he thought, probably. And now he's threatening to take on e4, queen c2, guarding the pawn, queen d7. Alireza activates his rook b7, so he played bishop a5. Bishop takes c5, and he allowed queen d3, which was okay. And in this position, white is up a pawn. He had to just continue very calmly. Bishop b4, f3, guarding the pawn on e4. But he played rook to b7. Okay, he considered Anish's time. He had 2 minutes Anish, and Alireza 6 minutes. He just wanted to go for attack the king and play practical chess. Now, but objectively, after knight e4, bishop e3, the position is equal. But in this position, Anish, with 3 minutes on the clock, he played a move that was a huge blunder. He played king g6. Instead, he had to just take the pawn. But Alireza said, even in this position, g4 and rook f7 is huge threat. King g6, knight e7, king f6, knight c6, attacking the bishop, rook a7 and stuff like that. Bishop d2, bishop b6. Actually, there are this knight lurking around the king. Practically with low time on the clock, this king has a lot of problems, even though he wouldn't have blundered. King g6 finishes the game on the spot, because check. King f6, knight c6, attacking the bishop, bishop d2 only move, and now a lot of moves win, but beautiful way is rook f7. This geometry, knight e5 also wins. Knight e5 also wins because I can distract the king and take the knight, and I'm up 2 pawns. But instead he found the classiest way, rook f7, king e6, rook e7, king d6, and you cannot escape from this knight fork, rook d7, and finishes the game on the spot. And Alireza is up three pawns, 3 passed pawns here. Anish continued a little bit, knight c4, king f3, g5, and here Alireza thought a lot to find. It's not easy. It's not that easy. Suddenly knight can stop all the pawns if you're not careful, and you lose your knight for nothing. So Alireza found a very nice way, e4, king d4, and e5 here, giving up this knight, but having 3 passed pawns in a correct way. e6, knight e5, king g2, knight c6, and good luck defending all of these soldiers. And Anish resigned in this position. Very sweet victory for Alireza. This huge preparation in the opening that broke a lot of principles, but it worked and surprised Anish, who is a huge theoretician. He normally blitz out 20-25 moves in the opening, but in this game he was down 40 minutes on the clock. With this win, Alireza leads the tournament solely and sole leader with 3.5 points. Today is the rest day. Tomorrow he's going to play against Wesley So with the black pieces. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked my recap, make sure to subscribe and like the video and put comments. So see you guys in the next videos. Thank you for watching. Ciao, ciao.